Hello everyone. This video is part of a series where we are exploring TypeScript's features with the help of a React application. Our main goal here is to learn how we can better type our code in order to improve confidence and velocity during development. So in the previous video, we have covered a couple of strategies, let's call it so, in order to type objects. So we went through this quick diagram and we tried a few things in the TypeScript playground. I already cleared everything because today we want to talk a little bit about classes. Now, I know I also want to go to the React application and start implementing something very quickly, but if we don't talk about classes, this will restrict a little bit our, not a little bit, but a lot, the way that we can implement things. Why do I say so? Well, what I would like to do, for example, is to have a class that is responsible for our data storage, right? So there would be a class which would have methods to save a product, load a product, or find a product by ID, or delete a product. And all these little methods, this, let's say, interfaces that we can use in order to centralize the management of our data store. Now, if we don't have a class, or if we are not familiar with the concept of a class and how it is used in TypeScript, then we would have to do a little bit of, let's say, mental gymnastics that will be unnecessary if we have at least an introduction to the concept of classes. Another thing that I would like to use classes for is, for example, to define a product. A product is going to be an object, is going to be an object of a type. And while I can use TypeScript types in order to type a product, we will use the concept of a class or the construct of a class so that we can get familiar also with a little or a few concepts of object-oriented programming. So I also want to take this opportunity here to explore a few other concepts that go a little bit beyond just TypeScript type checking. Good. So if you are familiar, or if you have seen at least one file in Java or one file in C#, then you have seen a class. So a class is basically a certain representation, or it is a representation of an entity. Right, so what can an entity be? What can it be? Let's try to enumerate a couple of entities. I'm just looking around my room here, and there is the microphone that I'm using to record this video. That's an entity. There is the laptop that I'm using. There is a TV in the background. There is a sound speaker, a coffee machine. There's a chair, a table, the floor. Everything that we see around us, all these things can be considered entities. The air is an entity, the hair is entity, glasses are entities, wardrobe is entity. Everything from the perspective of object orientation is an entity, is an object, right? And each of these things can then be represented by using classes. So we would have, for example, a class that would represent, let's say, microphone, like so, right? And the microphone would have a couple of attributes. The first attribute that comes to my mind is the brand of the microphone. The second attribute that comes to my mind is perhaps the size of the microphone. I don't know, the color maybe, the color of the microphone, right? And I also would like to have a couple of methods in my microphone. I have the method of recording a certain audio. I have the possibility of enhancing, maybe if the microphone has some smart technology, some smart chip or something within. We can think of this about these two methods. Now, as you can see, I have a bunch of errors, and of course we cannot declare a class like this, but what we can start to see here is that the class is used to provide a certain structure, right? So what is missing here? What is missing is, well, a couple of things. First of all, we need to provide a type for each of these little things that we want to declare, right? So the brand is going to be a string. The size is going to be, let's say, a string again. Or maybe we could use that little enumeration, not enumeration, but the types that we discussed in the previous videos when we had a couple of options that were concatenated by TypeScript or operation, right? So we could say small, medium, and large, like so, right? So a large microphone or big microphone. Maybe we'll put it big, makes more sense. And the color is going to be a string, right? And as you can see, we are still having a lot of errors. That's okay. We will fix them quite soon. Now the record, what we would like to do here is, let's say console.log, we started recording, right? And in the enhancing, we could say console.log started or enhancing audio, like so. Now, why are these errors here? Right, and these errors are here because I'm not initializing the values of these variables anywhere. And how do I initialize the value of a variable? Well, let's take a step back and let's think a little bit out of the box. How do we actually create an object? Right, so the class is a blueprint. It gives us the general shape, the general attributes of an object, as well as the desired behaviors. But how do we actually instantiate a microphone, right? So how do we create an actual microphone? You can think of a class that would be, let's say, the technical specifications of the microphone, right? It's a list of technical specifications, and we need to somehow at some point start actually producing the microphone. If there is no production planned, those specifications are basically useless. And in JavaScript and in TypeScript as well, the keyword for us to create a class or to create an instance of that class is constructor. And the constructor method is the method that is going to be called every time we run something like this. Const microphone is equal to a new microphone, right? This is how we create an object or an instance of a class, an instance of an object in TypeScript. So now we would be able to say microphone.record, right? Microphone.record. But we still have the errors here. And the problem is that in my microphone or in my microphone class, I'm still not assigning the brand, the size, and the color at any spot in time or at any point in time. So let's do this within the constructor. Let's say this.brand is equal to, I don't know, AKG. I think that's a brand that produces microphones. I don't really remember. Let's say this dot size is going to be a small microphone, and this dot color is going to be, let's say, gray, something like this. And now, as you can see, all our errors are gone. So if I press, if I compile this and I run the code, I can either click on the button run here, or at least on a Mac, I press Command Enter and then it executes. I think in Windows would be Control Enter. So this prints on the screen, started recording. Okay. Now, of course, there are some limitations to this structure. As you can see, I can simply write microphone dot and then brand, for example. I could take the brand of the microphone and assign whatever value I want to. So let's say now the brand is going to be called Samsung. And maybe Samsung doesn't produce microphones. But let's say microphone.brand is equal to Samsung. So now if I want to console.log the microphone.brand, then I should get Samsung in my console. Exactly. Now, it's often considered bad practice to keep all the fields public, right? So in a class, we want to have a couple of fields that are not accessible from the external world, but are only usable or only useful from within the class. And because we have these concepts in many languages, then TypeScript also has such tools that allow us to define which fields we want to make available to the external world and which fields we want to make available within the class, or maybe which fields we want to make available within the class and all the classes that extend that base class. So let's do it like so. I think that the video is already going for a little bit too long. Let's make a small pause here and we'll come back in the next video. We will start seeing the different modifiers in TypeScript, and we will also use a different example than the class microphone. Okay? So if you want to get notifications about the videos as soon as they are uploaded to YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm producing a lot of videos and a lot of different series, so I'm pretty sure you will be quite interested in some of them. And also, if you have any interest on the field of development or software engineering, make sure to write down in the comments, and if you see some suggestion that interests you as well, give it a thumbs up, because I consider all of this when I'm thinking and brainstorming for the next series in the channel. Great, so thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.